and welcome to the science lesson. My name is Teacher John. I'm going to teach you Science Primary 5, Term 1. Previously, we learned about digestion or the digestive system in poultry, the digestive system of poultry. And we looked at different parts of the digestive system of a domestic bird. So today we are going to look at reproduction in poultry. Reproduction in poultry. So we want to see, how do poultry reproduce? Remember we said poultry are domestic birds. How do they reproduce? Poultry reproduce by laying eggs. Poultry reproduce by laying eggs. That is how they reproduce. Next, look at the structure of an egg. The structure of an egg. I've drawn a diagram showing parts of an egg. The first part, we shall call it shell or eggshell. Eggshell. This one is egg white. Egg white is also known as albumen or albumen. This one is shell membrane. Shell membrane. Shell membrane. This one is egg yolk. Egg yolk. Sorry, this part is called germinal disc, then egg yolk. Germinal disc, then egg yolk. Germinal disc, then we have egg yolk. Then this one is chalaza. Then lastly we have air space. Air space. So we look at functions of different parts of an egg. We shall begin with the eggshell. Eggshell. The eggshell helps in gaseous exchange. It helps in gaseous exchange. Then it also protects the inner parts of an egg. It protects the inner parts. Protects the inner parts of an egg. Then it helps in gaseous exchange. It helps in gaseous exchange. I repeat, the eggshell protects the inner parts of an egg. Then it also helps in gaseous exchange, and that's the reason why it is porous. The eggshell is porous to allow gaseous exchange. NB. Why is the eggshell? Why is the eggshell porous? Why is the eggshell porous? Why is the eggshell porous? To allow gaseous exchange. It is porous to allow gaseous exchange. Or the eggshell is porous to allow exchange of gases. To allow exchange of gases or to allow gaseous exchange. So if you look at the eggshell, it has very, very small pores or very small holes. Those small holes are the ones which allow gaseous exchange. The next part is egg white. Egg white. We said egg white is also known as albumin. Albumin. This part provides proteins and water to the growing embryo. It provides proteins and water to the growing embryo. It provides proteins and water. Provides proteins and water to the growing embryo. It provides proteins and water to the growing embryo. That is the major function of the egg white. Then we have the germinal disc. Germinal disc. Germinal disc. The germinal disc develops into a chick. 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 Then we have the egg yolk. Egg yolk. Now the egg yolk provides proteins and fats to the growing embryo. It provides proteins and fats. Provides proteins and fats to the growing embryo. It provides proteins and fats to the growing embryo. Number 5, we have chalaza. Chalaza, its major work, it has two major functions. One, it holds the egg yolk in position. It holds the egg yolk in position. It holds the egg yolk in position. Then it also transports oxygen from the airspace to the growing embryo. It transports oxygen from the airspace to the growing embryo. The growing embryo. It transports oxygen from the airspace to the growing embryo. That's the work of the chalaza. Then it also holds the egg yolk in position. Then the last one is airspace. Airspace. From the word airspace, its major function is to store air. It stores air. Stores air. It stores air. That's the function of the air space. So that one makes, we've looked at different parts of an egg. We looked at the egg white, germinal disc, egg yolk, chalaza, airspace, and lastly we also looked at the egg shell and how they are important. Now I want us to look at the factors that may lead a fertilized eggs fail to hatch. Factors, what can make fertilized eggs fail to hatch? Factors that can make a fertilized egg. Factors that can make a fertilized egg fail to hatch. Factors that may make a fertilized egg fail to hatch. One, if the egg has two yolks. If the egg has two yolks. Now, there are some eggs with more than two yolks. There are some with two, others have three yolks. Eggs with more than one yolk cannot hatch into chicks. So that's why sometimes when you incubate eggs, some of them hatch, others don't hatch. So there are so many reasons why some of these eggs fail to hatch into chicks. And one of them is if the egg has two or more yolks, it cannot hatch. Then if the egg is cracked, if the egg has cracks, if the egg has cracks, eggs with cracks cannot also hatch. Then if the egg has a soft shell, if the egg has a soft shell, eggs with soft shells cannot hatch. Then if the egg does not have an airspace, if the egg does not have the airspace, another one, also if the egg is too small or if the egg is dirty eggs also don't hatch because dirt closes the pores on the eggshell, which prevents gaseous exchange. So that means gaseous exchange will not take place, and that one will make the egg not to hatch. So we shall say if the egg is dirty, if the egg is dirty, it may not hatch. If the egg is dirty, it will not be in a position to hatch. So we have around 5 reasons. 1, if the egg has 2 yolks or more, 2 or more yolks. If the egg has cracks. If the egg has soft shell. Then if the egg does not have if the egg does not have the airspace, it will also not hatch. Then if the egg is dirty. Question. We've talked about eggs with soft shells failing to hatch. Why do poultry lay eggs with soft shells? Why do poultry lay eggs? Why do poultry lay eggs with soft shells? Why do poultry lay eggs with soft shells? Answer: due to lack of calcium in their diet. Due to lack of calcium in their diet. Due to lack of calcium, be careful the spelling without calcium. Due to lack of calcium in their diet. Due to lack of calcium in their diet. So remember, calcium is a mineral salt which makes the eggshells to harden or to become hard. So if you feed poultry on food that does not have calcium, then the birds will lay eggs with soft shells because they are lacking calcium in their diet. So why do poultry lay eggs with soft shells? Due to lack of calcium in their diet. Another question. How can poultry farmers prevent their birds from laying soft-shelled eggs? How can poultry farmers prevent poultry from laying soft shelled eggs? How can poultry farmers prevent poultry from laying soft shelled eggs? By feeding poultry on food rich in calcium. Answer: by feeding poultry on food rich in calcium. By feeding poultry on food rich in calcium. So when poultry are fed on food rich in calcium, they will lay hard-shelled eggs. How can poultry farmers prevent poultry from laying soft-shelled eggs? By feeding poultry on food rich in calcium. When they do that, their birds will lay hard-shelled eggs or eggs with hard shells. That's about reproduction in poultry. Then next look at incubation. Incubation. incubation, incubation. Incubation. So we need to know what incubation is. Incubation is the process by which fertilized eggs are given necessary conditions to hatch into chicks. Incubation is the condition when fertilized eggs. Incubation is the process by which fertilized eggs are given necessary conditions to hatch into chicks. I repeat, incubation is the process by which fertilized eggs are given necessary conditions to hatch into chicks. We put it down. Incubation, the process by which fertilized eggs are given necessary. Incubation is a process by which fertilized eggs are given necessary conditions to hatch into chicks. Incubation is the process by which fertilized eggs are given necessary conditions to hatch into chicks. That is how we define the term incubation. Conditions needed for eggs to hatch into chicks. Conditions needed for eggs to hatch into chicks. Conditions needed for eggs to hatch into chicks, or conditions needed during incubation. Conditions needed for eggs to hatch into chicks. So we have two conditions needed for eggs to hatch into chicks. One of them is warmth. Warmth is needed. We have moisture. Moisture is needed. Oxygen is also needed. Oxygen is needed during incubation. So we have warmth, moisture, and oxygen. They are needed during incubation. NB. Or question? Question? What is incubation period? What is incubation period? What is incubation period? Incubation period is the time taken. Incubation period is the time taken for a fertilized eggs to hatch into a chick. That's what you call incubation period. The time taken for a fertilized egg to hatch into a chick. So there's a difference between incubation period and incubation. We said incubation is the process by which a fertilized egg is given, or fertilized eggs are given necessary conditions to hatch into chicks. Then incubation period is the time taken for fertilized eggs to hatch into chicks. That time taken for fertilized eggs to hatch into chicks is what you call incubation period. For example, we have some birds, like for example chicken. We have incubation period for chicken. How long does it take for the eggs of chicken to hatch into chicks? That period is what you call incubation. So different poultry have different incubation period. So we're going to summarize incubation periods for different poultry. So we have chicken, we have ducks, we have pigeons, we have turkeys and ducks. They have different incubation periods. They have different incubation periods. So incubation period for different poultry. So our next heading. Incubation period for different poultry. 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 One, we have chicken. Chicken, incubation period for chicken is 21 days. 21 days or 3 weeks. 21 days or 3 weeks. 21 days or 3 weeks. Then the incubation period of a duck. Incubation period for a duck is 28 days. 28 days or 4 weeks. Days or 4 weeks. Then we have incubation period for a turkey. Incubation period for a turkey. The incubation period for a turkey is 28 days. 28 days or 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Then we have the incubation period for pigeon. Incubation period for pigeon is 14 days or 2 weeks. 2 weeks or 14 days. This is the incubation period. Remember we said incubation period is the time taken for a fertilized egg to hatch into chicks. Chicken, they take 21 days or 3 weeks. Ducks, they take 28 days or 4 weeks. Turkeys, they take 28 days or 4 weeks. Pigeons, they take 14 days or 2 weeks. Then we have geese. Geese. These ones, they take 30 days or 4 weeks. So that is about incubation. On page 13, there's an activity which you are going to answer. You're going to do that activity on page 12. No, page 13. Page 13 in your science workbook is an activity about what we have so far learned in this lesson. Please make sure you attempt that activity. Next, look at types of incubation. Types of incubation. Types of incubation. Types of incubation. Now, we have 2 types of incubation. We have natural incubation and artificial incubation. We have natural incubation, natural incubation. Then number 2, we have artificial incubation. Natural incubation and artificial incubation. Now we begin with natural incubation. Natural incubation. What is natural incubation? Right, natural incubation. So in natural incubation is when the mother hen sits on the eggs to hatch into chicks. I repeat, natural incubation is when the mother hen sits on the eggs to hatch into chicks. That's what we call natural incubation. Natural incubation. Don't forget what incubation is. We said incubation is a process by which eggs are given necessary conditions to hatch into chicks. So when the mother hen gives the necessary conditions, providing warmth to these eggs until they hatch into chicks, that's what we call natural incubation. We shall say natural incubation. Natural incubation is when the mother hen sits on the eggs, sits on her eggs. Natural incubation is when the mother hen sits on her eggs in order for them to enable them hatch into chicks. Natural incubation is when the mother hen sits on her eggs. Mother hen sits on her eggs to enable them hatch into chicks. That's what you call natural incubation. I repeat, natural incubation is when the mother hen sits on her eggs to enable them hatch into chicks. That's what you call natural incubation. Then advantages of natural incubation. Advantages of natural incubation. Advantages of natural incubation. Advantages of natural incubation. One, it is cheap and easy to manage. It is cheap. It is cheap and easy to manage. It is cheap and easy to manage. Why are we saying it is cheap? It is simply because the mother hen is the one which is incubating the eggs. It's the one providing necessary conditions for these eggs to hatch into chicks. So that means that the farmer does not incur any costs of incubating eggs because the mother hen is the one incubating the eggs. That's why we're saying it is cheap and easy to manage. Then chicks get extra care from the mother. Chicks get extra care from the mother. Those are some of the advantages of natural incubation. Then even these eggs are protected by the mother hen. The eggs are protected from the mother hen. So one of the major advantages of natural incubation is it is cheap and easy to manage. It is cheap and easy to manage. Then disadvantages. Disadvantages of natural incubation. Disadvantages of natural incubation. Disadvantages of natural incubation. Fewer chicks or few eggs are incubated. Fewer eggs. Fewer eggs are incubated. For example, a mother hen can incubate a maximum of 10 or 12 eggs. So those eggs are very few compared to artificial incubation, the way we shall see. Fewer eggs are incubated. It is a disadvantage because only few eggs are incubated. Then fewer eggs can hatch into chicks. Fewer eggs may hatch into chicks. Fewer eggs may hatch into chicks. Fewer eggs may hatch into chicks. Then some hens may not be good incubators. Some hens may not be good incubators. Some hens may not be good incubators. Another one, the mother hen may be eaten by predators. The mother hen may be eaten by predators. The mother hen may be eaten by predators like snakes and wild animals. Then some eggs may not hatch. 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 So those are some of the disadvantages of natural incubation. Next, you look at artificial incubation. Artificial incubation. Artificial incubation. Now, with artificial incubation, we use a machine called an incubator. We use a machine called an incubator to incubate the eggs. Artificial incubation. Artificial incubation. Artificial incubation is a method of incubating eggs using a machine called an incubator. This is a method of incubating eggs. This is a method of incubating eggs using a machine called an incubator. This is a method of incubating eggs or providing necessary conditions to eggs to hatch into chicks using a machine called an incubator. Now, the incubator provides all the necessary conditions needed for eggs to hatch into chicks. Advantages of artificial incubation. Advantages of artificial incubation. So, the major difference between artificial incubation and natural incubation. Natural incubation, the mother hen is the one which provides necessary conditions, the one which incubates the eggs. But with artificial incubation, a machine called an incubator is the one which incubates the eggs. It provides necessary conditions for these eggs to hatch into chicks. Advantages. Advantages of artificial Advantages of artificial incubation. Advantages of artificial incubation. Advantages of artificial incubation. 1. Many eggs are hatched at a time. Many eggs are hatched at a time. Many eggs are hatched at a time. It is good for commercial farmers. It is good for commercial farmers. Now, when we say many eggs are hatched at a time, remember we said with natural incubation, few eggs are hatched. We said a maximum of around 10 or 12 eggs. But with the artificial incubation, you can incubate as many eggs as possible. You can even incubate 5,000 eggs, depending on the size of an incubator. So as the natural incubation, only 10 eggs can be hatched, but artificial incubation, you can incubate 1,000 eggs, 2,000, 5,000 eggs, and so on. Because the incubator is big enough, it can incubate very many eggs. And that's the reason why we are saying it is good for commercial farmers. It is good for commercial farmers. These are farmers who do business. For example, we have companies in Uganda that incubate eggs. For example, we have Cook Chick. They use artificial incubation to hatch eggs into chicks. Then they sell those chicks to other farmers who want to rear chicken. That's why we are saying it is good for commercial farmers. All eggs are hatched. All eggs are hatched. All eggs are hatched because they are first tested. They first test them to see whether they are in a position to hatch before they can put them in an incubator. But with the natural incubation, there is no testing of those eggs. With artificial incubation, these eggs are first tested before they are put in an incubator. That means every egg that is put in an incubator will hatch into a chick. So all eggs are hatched. Reason, they are first tested before they are put in an incubator. Then temperature is maintained properly. Temperature is maintained properly. Temperature is maintained properly. By a thermometer. temperature is maintained properly by a thermometer. So if you look at this machine called an incubator, we have a thermometer inside it, and the importance of this thermometer is to regulate temperature. It helps in maintaining the temperature of an incubator. That's why those eggs, all of them, will hatch into chicks. Then, disadvantages of artificial incubation. Disadvantages of artificial incubation. Disadvantages of artificial incubation. One is it is very expensive to manage and even to buy the incubator. Disadvantages of artificial incubation. Disadvantages of artificial incubation. One, it is expensive. It is expensive to incubate eggs. It is expensive. It's expensive to buy the machine. It's expensive to buy the machine. Then it needs skilled manpower. It needs skilled labor or manpower. It needs skilled labor. Somebody to supervise this machine needs to have skills, need to have learned how this machine works. That's why we are saying it requires skilled labor. Not everybody can do it. It requires skilled labor. Then lastly, it needs regular supervision. It requires regular supervision. It requires regular supervision. So on page 15, there's an activity about incubation which you're supposed to answer. Make sure you attempt that activity about incubation. Then, in case you need any help, you find me on 0705 741638. I'm Teacher John. This number is on WhatsApp. You can always find me. I'll be in a position to offer help. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending my lesson. May God bless you.